Well, it didn't harm her, he said quietly. I know, the woman replied, her voice cautious. Oh, that's why we're leaving. Amara frowned. But it's okay, Minjun interrupted gently. The girl looked at him, searching his face. You're not lost anymore, right? He hesitated. Oh, then softly, I think I know the way. She smiled, satisfied with that answer, and let her mother lead her away. But just before getting into the car, she turned back and waved. Oh, bye, Mr. Minjun. He raised his hand slightly in return. The car disappeared into the night. The alley fell silent again. His men reappeared moments later, tense and ready. The target escaped, one of them said carefully. Minjun didn't respond. Instead, he looked down at his hand, at the faint trace of salt still lingering on his fingers. Then he did something none of them expected. Call it off, he said. Sir, the job. It's over. His men exchanged confused glances. But that's an order. They nodded, though none of them understood. Minjun stepped out of the alley into the open street where the city lights flickered like distant stars. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like he was walking towards something, or running from it. Just walking. And somewhere, in the quiet space between who he was and who he might become, a small voice echoed in his mind. Mister, are you lost too? The next night, Kang Minjun returned to the alley. Not for business, not for revenge, just because. It irritated him. Men like him didn't wander. They moved with purpose, precision, control, every step calculated, every decision profitable. And yet here he was, standing under the same flickering streetlight, staring at the empty space where a little girl had once offered him cold fries like they were something priceless. A boss? His right-hand man, Yi Yin, stepped out from the shadows, confusion clear in his eyes. You've been coming here 2 nights in a row. Should I be concerned? Minjun didn't look at him. Do you think people can change? Yi Yun blinked. Yes. A pause. Then, carefully, people adapt. They survive. But change. He shook his head slightly. That's a luxury, sir. Minjun's jaw tightened. Luxury. Was that what it was? Or weakness? Before he could respond, laughter drifted from the street corner. Light, bright, familiar. Minjun turned instantly, and there she was, Amara. This time she wasn't alone. She sat on the curb, swinging her legs, drawing something on the pavement with a piece of chalk. Her yellow hoodie looked even brighter under the streetlight, like she carried her own sun wherever she went. Minjun stepped forward before thinking. Amara, a day, Mara. She looked up, and her face lit up like she'd just found a missing puzzle piece. Mr. Minjun! She jumped to her feet. You came back. He stopped a few feet away. I was in the area. She grinned. You were lost again. Maybe. Ye Hyun watched from a distance, stunned into silence. He had seen his boss face assassins without flinching. But this was something else entirely. Amara held up her chalk. Oh, look! I made a map. Minjun crouched slightly, studying the messy lines and shapes on the ground. Oh, what is it? It's how you don't get lost, she explained proudly. You see, this is the bus stop, and this is my house, and this, she tapped a big circle, is where you were standing yesterday. Minjun stared at the drawing longer than necessary. You remembered. Of course I did. She tilted her head. Don't you remember things? He did. Too many things. Things he wished he could forget. I remember, he said quietly. Good. She nodded, satisfied. Then, without warning, she grabbed his hand. Yi Hyun nearly stepped forward. No one touched Kang Minjun. No one. But Minjun didn't pull away. Amara gently placed his hand on the chalk map. Now you won't get lost again. Her hand was warm, small. Something in his chest shifted. Subtle but undeniable. Then you get confused, she continued. You just look at where you are and where you want to go. It's easy. 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 Minjun almost smiled. If it were that simple, he murmured. It is simple, she insisted. And the grown-ups just make it hard. He looked at her, at the certainty in her eyes, and for a moment he wondered what his life would have looked like if someone had told him that when he was her age, before the power, before the blood, before he became someone the world feared instead of understood. A car passed slowly by the street, its headlights briefly illuminating them. Amara squinted. Oh, I forgot. Wait here. Before he could stop her, she ran off toward a small convenience store on the corner. Yi Hyun rushed up immediately. Boss, this is dangerous. We don't know who's watching. I know exactly who's watching, Minjun interrupted calmly. And that's when Yi Hyun noticed them. Across the street, 2 men, not his. Watching, Waiting, Min Jun's expression darkened. So it begins, he muttered. What are your orders? Yi Hyun asked, already reaching inside his jacket. Min Jun's gaze flicked toward the store. Toward the door Amara had just disappeared through. Nothing, not here. Yi Hyun frowned. Oh, but that's an order. The tension snapped tight in the air. The two men across the street started moving. Slow, deliberate, Min Jun stepped forward slightly, positioning himself between them and the store entrance. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't protecting power. He wasn't protecting territory. He was protecting a child. The door of the store burst open. Amara came running back, holding something in her hands. Mr. Min Jun, I got you something. The men across the street picked up their pace. Yi Hyun's hand tightened on his weapon. Min Jun didn't move, didn't blink. Amara reached him, slightly out of breath, and proudly held out a small, neatly wrapped chocolate bar. You said you don't eat fries, she said. I got you this instead. I got you this instead. For a second, everything else faded. The enemies, the life he lived, all of it. You didn't have to do that, he said softly. I know, she replied with a smile. I wanted to. The two men were close now. Too close, Yi Hyun whispered urgently. Boss! Min Jun took the chocolate, and in that exact moment, the world shifted again. Because for the first time in years, Kang Min Jun realized something terrifying. He had something to lose that the moment didn't last. It never did. Min Jun's fingers had barely closed around the chocolate when instinct snapped back into place, cold, sharp, unforgiving. Amara, he said quietly, his voice changing just enough for Yi Hyun to recognize it. Go stand by the wall, she blinked. Why? Because I said so. No anger, no fear, just authority. For a split second, she hesitated, then nodded and stepped back, clutching the edge of her hoodie as she moved toward the wall. The two men were only a few steps away now. One smiled, not kindly. So it's true, he said, his voice smooth but poisoned. The great Kang Min Jun standing in the street holding candy. Yi Hyun shifted slightly, positioning himself closer. Careful, he warned. The second man laughed under his breath. What's this? A new weakness. Min Jun didn't answer, didn't need to. His eyes had already said enough. But the first man tilted his head, studying Amara from a distance. You always were unpredictable, Min Jun. But this, he chuckled. This is disappointing. That was enough. Min Jun stepped forward, slow, controlled. Dangerous. Walk away, he said. Or what? The man challenged. You'll protect her. Silence. Then, yes. A word landed heavier than any threat. Even Ye Hyun felt it. The air changed. The two men exchanged a glance. This wasn't the Kang Min Jun they knew. This one was different. And different was dangerous. Interesting, the second man muttered. You finally found something you care about. Min Jun's voice dropped, colder than before. A last warning, but warnings weren't why they came. The first man reached inside his jacket. Yi Hyun reacted instantly, but Min Jun was faster. One step, one movement, one decision. The man's arm was twisted before the weapon even cleared his coat. A sharp crack echoed as he hit the ground, breath knocked out of him. The second man lunged. Yi Hyun intercepted, forcing him back with brutal precision. The street exploded into motion. Quick! Controlled. Silent in the way only professionals could be, Amara pressed herself against the wall, eyes wide, but she didn't scream, didn't run. She just watched. Watched the man she called a loss to become something else entirely, something terrifying. Within seconds it was over. Both men were down. Alive, but not a threat. Yi Hyun stepped back, breathing steady. Areas clear. Min Jun didn't respond immediately. He turned, looked at Amara. For a brief moment, something flickered across his face. Not fear of the enemies, but fear of her reaction, of what she had just seen. He walked toward her slowly. Carefully. Are you hurt? She shook her head, still staring at him. Not with fear. Not exactly. With curiosity. You're not lost, she said quietly. The words hit harder than anything else that night. Min Jun exhaled slowly. No. She stepped closer. You were pretending. Something like that. Amara looked past him at the men on the ground, then back at him. They were trying to hurt you. Yes. And you stopped them? Yes, she considered that. Then asked the one question he wasn't ready for. Does that mean you're a bad guy? Yi Hyun stiffened. Min Jun didn't answer right away, because for the first time in a long time, he didn't know. Amara waited, patient, honest. Finally, he crouched down to her level. I've done bad things, he said. The truth. Raw. Unfiltered. Her small face didn't change. Did you have to? The question cut deeper than any blade. Minjun held her gaze. I thought I did. She was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and gently placed her hand over his, the same way she had with the chalk map. Then maybe you were lost, she said softly. It's not heavy, not tense, just real. Minjun looked at her hand, at how easily she had decided something he had spent years running from. No fear, no judgment, just understanding. Yi-hyun watched from a distance, unable to process what he was seeing. This wasn't strategy. This wasn't power. This was something else, something far more dangerous. Amara smiled a little. But you found your way, right? Minjun didn't answer. Not because he couldn't, but because he wasn't sure it was true yet. In the distance, sirens began to echo, faint, but getting closer. Yi-hyun stepped forward. We need to move. Minjun stood, then looked down at Amara one more time. Go home, he said gently. And next time, don't come out alone. She nodded. Okay, he turned to leave. But, Mr. Minjun? He paused. Didn't look back. Yes? You didn't say thank you for a second. Yi-hyun almost smiled. Minjun closed his eyes briefly. Then, without turning, thank you, Amara, a small pause. Then her voice bright again. You're welcome. Minjun walked away. This time not toward a deal, not toward violence, but not away from it either, just forward. And behind him, drawn in, uneven chalk lines on cold pavement, a simple map remained, showing exactly where he had been. In the long, uncertain path ahead, the city didn't sleep. It just changed faces. By midnight, the laughter was gone, replaced by sirens, whispers, and the low hum of power shifting in the dark. Kang Minjun stood at the top floor of his glass tower, staring down at it all. The streets that once felt like a chessboard now looked different, uncertain. Internal breach confirmed, Yi-hyun said behind him, voice tight. Those two men were acting alone. Minjun didn't turn. I know. They knew exactly where to find you. A pause. Then, quieter, someone close leaked your location. That part didn't surprise him. Betrayal was a language his world spoke fluently, but something else lingered in his mind. Not the attack, not the risk. Her. Ishii asked me if I was a bad man, Minjun said suddenly. Yi-hyun blinked. Sir? Minjun finally turned, his expression unreadable. What would you have said? Yi-hyun hesitated. Careful now. Every word mattered. I would have said, you do what you have to. That's not what she asked. Silence stretched. Then I don't know, Yi-hyun admitted. Minjun gave a faint nod as if he expected nothing else. A soft knock interrupted them. Come in. The door opened, and a young woman stepped inside, slightly out of breath, eyes filled with urgency. It was Amara's mother. Yi-hyun immediately tensed. How did she... I let her in, Minjun said calmly. The woman didn't move further into the room. She stood near the door like she was ready to run if needed. But she didn't. I told her to stay away from you, she said, her voice steady despite the fear underneath. Minjun didn't argue. She didn't listen, he replied. Ishii's a child. A beat. She doesn't understand who you are. Minjun studied her carefully. And you do? Yes. No hesitation. That answer should have ended the conversation, but it didn't. Then why are you here? He asked. Her jaw tightened slightly, because they followed her. The room went still. Yi-hyun stepped forward. Who? I don't know, she admitted. But after tonight, after what happened, they'll come again. Minjun's expression darkened. Not with anger, with calculation. They won't touch her, he said. You can't promise that, she shot back. I can. Something in his tone made even Yi-hyun glance at him. This wasn't business. This was something else. The woman shook her head slightly. You don't understand. People like you, your world, it destroys everything it gets close to. Minjun didn't deny it because she wasn't wrong. That's why I'm asking you, she continued, softer now, but no less firm. Stay away from her. The words hung in the air. Heavy, necessary, impossible. Minjun looked away briefly toward the city lights, then back at her. If I stay away, he said quietly, they'll see that as weakness. And if you don't, she replied, they'll use her. No one spoke, because both were true. Yi-hyun broke the silence. We can relocate them. Safe house. New identities. The woman stiffened. No. It's the safest option, he insisted. It's not a life. Minjun watched her closely. There it was. The difference. He lived in a world where survival was everything. She lived in one where living actually mattered. What do you want? He asked. She met his gaze directly. I want my daughter to grow up without fear, a simple wish, an impossible one. Minjun nodded slowly. Then I'll make sure of it. How? She challenged. He didn't answer immediately, because the truth was there was only one way, and it would cost him everything he had built. Dumb. Yi Haiyan seemed to realize it at the same time. Sir, no. Minjun raised a hand slightly, silencing him. Then looked back at her. They're not coming for her, he said, but they're coming for me. A pause. And I'm done running my world the way I used to. Yi Haiyan stepped forward, alarmed. You can't just... I can, Minjun cut in, and I will. The weight of those words hit harder than any gunshot, because in his world change didn't come quietly. It came with consequences. The woman studied him, searching for doubt. A quote. Then this will be easier. Signal, subtle, but deadly. From the shadows above, movement. Snipers adjusting position. Yi Haiyan's voice sharpened. Minjun, get out, now. But Minjun didn't move, didn't reach for a weapon, didn't even glance up. Instead, he stepped closer to Siak Wu. So close their shoulders almost touched. Well, you think I came here to fight you? Minjun asked quietly. Siak Wu smirked. Wung else would you... I came to end it. Something in his tone made the smirk falter, just slightly. How? Siak Wu asked. Minjun reached inside his coat slowly, carefully. Every sniper above tightened their aim. Yi Haiyan held his breath. And then Minjun pulled out nothing dangerous. No gun, no blade, just a small, slightly melted chocolate bar. Siak Wu frowned. What is this? Minjun looked at it for a second as if it didn't belong in his hand. In my world, he said, everything has a price. Siak Wu's eyes narrowed. Oh, but she didn't ask for anything, Minjun continued. No power, no protection, nothing. Silence filled the warehouse, heavy, confusing. She gave me this, Minjun said simply, because she wanted to. Siak Wu stared at him, then laughed. At first quietly, then louder. You came here, he said between breaths, to tell me a story? Minjun didn't react, because this wasn't for Siak Wu. Not really. I built everything on fear, Minjun went on. A control, survival, and now? Siak Wu challenged. Minjun met his gaze. I'm done. The laughter stopped completely. That single sentence echoed louder than any gunshot could have. You're serious, Siak Wu said slowly. Yes, a beat. Then, you think you can just walk away? Siak Wu's voice hardened. From this? No. Huh. Then what exactly are you doing? Minjun took a step back, finally creating distance. I'm taking away your reason to fight me. Confusion flickered, just for a second. Then understanding followed. Dangerous understanding. Var dismantling, Siak Wu said. Minjun didn't deny it. The networks, the roots, the money, Siak Wu's voice sharpened. You're burning your own empire. Yes. Why? Minjun's grip tightened slightly around the chocolate. Because if there's nothing left to control, there's nothing left to threaten. Silence. Even the snipers above hesitated. Because this wasn't a move anyone expected. It wasn't strategy. It was something far more unpredictable. Siak Wu studied him carefully. Long, hard. Then, you've changed. Some Minjun didn't argue. Or maybe Siak Wu added quieter now, you've just become weak. That word hung in the air. Familiar. Minjun had built his life avoiding it, destroying anyone who embodied it. But now, he didn't flinch. If that's what it is, he said calmly, then so be it. Siak Wu searched his face one last time, looking for doubt, fear, anything. He found none. And that was the most dangerous part. Finally, he stepped back, raised a hand. The snipers above lowered their weapons. A go, said. Yi Haiyan's voice snapped in relief. A move. Now, Minjun didn't hesitate. He turned, walked toward the exit, each step steady, measured, real. Behind him, Siak Wu watched in silence, not defeated, not convinced, but no longer certain. And in their world, uncertainty was the beginning of everything unraveling. Outside, the night air felt different. Yi Haiyan rushed to him. What was that? You could have ended him. No, Minjun said quietly. That's how it starts again. Yi Haiyan stopped, because for the first time he understood. This wasn't about winning. It was about ending the game entirely. Minjun looked down at the chocolate in his hand, still slightly melted, still untouched. Let's go, he said. And somewhere far from the violence, far from the power, far from the choices he had just made, a small chalk map still waited on cold pavement, unchanged. Simple, showing exactly where someone had once stood, and the quiet, uncertain path towards somewhere better. The city noticed first. Not with sirens, not with headlines, but with absence. Routes went quiet. Money stopped moving. Names that once carried weight suddenly meant nothing. Quote, deals collapsed before they began. Fear, once carefully cultivated, started to fade, replaced by something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. Kang Min-jun stood at the edge of it all, watching his empire disappear, piece by piece. And he didn't stop. Final accounts are closed. Yi Hyun reported, his voice quieter than usual. A safe house is cleared. Contacts gone. Min-jun nodded, no hesitation, no regret, just a strange steady calm. And Seok-woo? He asked. Watching, Ye-hyun said, he hasn't moved against you again. Min-jun gave a faint nod, because now there was nothing left to take. No territory, no leverage, no war. Only a man standing where power used to be. It's done, Min-jun said. Ye-hyun studied him carefully. What will you do now? That question lingered longer than any threat ever had. Min-jun didn't answer right away, because for the first time in his life he had no plan. The alley looked smaller in daylight, less dangerous, less important. But the chalk drawing was still there, faded now, smudged by passing feet in time, yet still visible if you looked close. A crooked circle, uneven lines, a simple map. Min-jun stood over it, hands in his coat pockets. Still, quiet. You came back. He turned. Amara stood a few steps away, her yellow hoodie just as bright as he remembered. Her mother stood behind her this time. Watchful, cautious, but no longer afraid in the same way. I said I would, Min-jun replied. Amara walked closer, looking down at the chalk map. It's still here, she said softly. Yes. She crouched, tracing one of the lines with her finger. It's a little broken. It's been through a lot, Min-jun said. She nodded like that made perfect sense. Then she looked up at him. So, are you still lost? The question felt different now, not sharp, not heavy, just honest. Min-jun looked at the map. At the place where she had once marked him, standing still, not knowing where to go. Then he looked at her. No, he said quietly. Amara smiled, not surprised, like she already knew. Good, she said, because I made a better one. She pulled out a folded piece of paper from her hoodie pocket and handed it to him. Min-jun took it carefully, unfolded it. Another map, still messy, still uneven, but bigger, clearer. This one has more places, she explained. Oh, so you don't have to stay in one spot. Min-jun stared at it longer than he needed to, then folded it again. Kept it. Thank you. Amara grinned. You remembered this time. I did. Her mother stepped forward slightly. We're moving, she said. Not far, just somewhere quieter. Min-jun nodded. That's good. A pause. Then more gently, you will be safe. She studied him for a moment, then gave a small nod in return. Not trust, not fully, but something close enough. Amara reached out suddenly and hugged him. Quick, tight, unexpected. Yi Hyun, watching from across the street, nearly forgot how to breathe. Min-jun froze for half a second. Then slowly, carefully, he placed a hand on her back. Not as a boss, not as someone powerful, just as someone human. When she pulled away, she looked up at him one last time. Bye, Mr. Min-jun. He gave a small nod. Goodbye, Amara. She waved. Then took her mother's hand and walked away. No fear, no looking back, just forward. Min-jun stood there until they disappeared around the corner. The alley grew quiet again. But it didn't feel the same. Nothing did. Yi Hyun approached slowly. It's over. Min-jun looked down at the chalk map one last time, then at the paper in his hand. He said. A soft breeze moved through the alley, lifting dust, blurring the chalk lines even more, erasing them, not completely, but enough. Min-jun turned, and this time he didn't hesitate. He walked out of the alley, past the place where he once stood still, past the life he had dismantled, past everything that had defined him. No guards, no shadows, no destination carved in stone, just a direction, forward. And for the first time, he didn't need to ask if he was lost anymore. Well,